There is one crucial skill that you must develop if you are trying to scale your business, and that skill is the ability to delegate. Now, delegation can be done right and it can certainly be done wrong. If you see businesses that have a tough time growing, doing the same thing over and over again, revenue's not growing, wondering what's going on inside their business, it's because they're not giving tasks out appropriately. You typically don't have a what problem, as in like, what do I need to do? You have a who problem. Who can help you do it? And getting someone to be able to do the task the way that it needs to get done to execute properly is the way the biggest businesses actually scale. In this video, I'm gonna share how you can make this happen inside of your business so you can delegate properly and it happens the same time and time and time again. If you stick around to the end, you'll have the entire framework as well as a flow chart of how to actually accomplish this so you can use this on all your future projects you're looking to delegate. Let's get to the training. Most of the time, we don't have a how problem. How can I grow my business? How can I stop doing the things that just keep me busy? It's not making me money. There is a saying in this book that goes, there's wisdom in procrastination. So what are the things that you consistently put off? What are consistently the things that just are not getting done on a daily basis? Because like as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, we beat ourselves up. We think that we got to be great at everything and it feels that way for sure. But the reality is there's wisdom in procrastination. What are the things that we're putting off that we're consistently just not doing? And maybe, just maybe, that could be something someone else could do. That could be something we can get help on. Maybe that's through the form of strategic partnership. We can talk about how you can get help on this and who the people you can go find to get these jobs done. But one of the easiest ones for many of you guys to discuss time and time again when it comes to real estate investing and getting more deals done, VAs is one of the easiest places to start your delegation. Now, if you have a strategic partner, then it's important that you don't step on each other's toes, right? If it's two people's problem, if it's two people's job, then it's nobody's job. So it's all about being able to pass off responsibility to things and get it done confidently to know it's going to get done right. So this training today is all based around those principles. We don't have a how problem. We typically have a who problem. So I am going to be taking you guys through a quick framework today around how to actually make this happen. Okay, so delegation, the art of delegation. I would say the art of getting help on important tasks in your business is what we're talking about today, right? So there's a difference between two things. You have basically delegation, and then you have the other form, which is abdication. But basically, whenever you are going about handing off tasks in your business, you can easily pass things off to people and just hope beyond a hope that things are done properly, or you can properly delegate them. So when we abdicate something, this normally means it's something like this. You either throw your hands up and say you're done. When you abdicate something, you're like, hey, get help without verifying someone can do it right. Any help is better than no help. You don't track numbers. You're literally just like throwing stuff against the wall and hoping for the best. That is a pretty common thing when it comes to abdication. Now, if that sounds anything like what you've done in the past, no worries. It's a very common thing. People abdicate responsibility of things all the time and say, hey, look, I know I need to do these things, but honestly, I just don't have time to do it or I can't get it done right. So done is better than perfect. So I'm going to try and we're going to get it done. And it's just consistent mediocrity, right? Your business will never reach the heights that you would like it to because the things are just not delegated properly and the systems aren't set up. So one thing you guys can think about as we talk about the art of getting help on important tasks in your business, we'll never rise to our goals. We'll always just fall back to our systems. So your systems are like your habits in your business, right? So like, hey, you wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, take a shower, you get dressed, you do all these things. Those are your habits, right? Your business has similar habits. Maybe that's checking in your bank account every morning and then checking in on your numbers from team members, tracking your KPIs, having a meeting with your team, right? Your business has similar habits. That is important that if they don't get done, if you don't do them, then probably no one else is going to do them. And a lot of times we don't even realize these things. So then we advocate responsibility and we wonder why are we not getting the results that we would like to get simply because of this. So very important that we do not abdicate responsibility. We properly delegate. So when you delegate something properly, you have confidence that the task is done correctly and timely. That's very important, correctly and timely. You can also move in that you can focus on the activities that serve your business to at a higher level. So we're not just throwing our hands up in the air. We are verifying things are done right, and we are tracking our numbers. We're not just throwing stuff up against the wall and hoping for the best. So there is a 6-step process to make this possible. 6-step process. The difference between delegation and abdication is just taking full responsibility and say, hey, if I'm going to get this done, I want to make sure it's done right. But every time I try to actually give a responsibility to someone, this doesn't have to be an employee. This doesn't have to be someone that you're paying. This could be a family member, a friend, someone who's helping you in your business, like whoever. We want to make sure when we give a task to someone, first off, we're clear about what the task is that we need help with, but also these things need to happen. But if they happen like this and you follow the sequence, and I'm about to share with you guys the 6-step process, you are going to be able to actually scale your business. If you don't do this, I will tell you right now, it would be almost impossible to scale your business because you need help to be able to do that. AI can only go so far, you guys. So follow these steps, and I promise you it works like clockwork. And this is coming from a guy who I've always been about doing that on my own, because if I'm going to call somebody or if I'm going to do sales, I'm going to be the person because I'm just better at it. And look, that's going to be the case. Anytime you give responsibility off to someone, they're probably not going to do it as efficiently as you are. They probably won't do it as well as you do, but eventually they will latch on and they will do a lot better. But you have to give them responsibilities appropriately, or else it'll never happen. I've hired and fired many people because I'm like, hey, I asked you to make these cold calls and I asked you to make these calls, but nothing's happening from it. I'm not getting any business. So you're the problem. I didn't tell them that directly, but I'm like, I'm going to have to let you go because of X, Y, and Z, right? But the reality was, it was really me. I wasn't giving the task off responsibly and was able to do it. So I would say before the 6-step process even starts, you need to, I would just say, pre-process. I would say you want to be clear on the task you are trying to delegate. So I would just say you want to delegate is actually probably a better phrase there. Because the reality is, like, sometimes we don't even know, we say we need help, but I don't even know what to ask you to do, right? But like, if you guys follow our process when it comes to working with real estate agents and doing deals that way, typically the first thing that you delegate is the cold calling and the lead generation, right? So that way you can work with leads that are already vetted. You can spend your limited time and resources around having conversations that should lead you to more deals. Now, you got to be super clear on what that looks like. So luckily, you guys have access to a lot of resources inside of the school community where you can go see exactly what a virtual assistant should really be doing in your business. And that is, hey, 150 calls, 200 text messages, yada, yada, yada. How do you think I actually got to that place, right? How did I get to a place where I was able to get some help to make it done consistently? Like, and there's a reason behind this, you guys. Like, why do my VAs outperform other teams of virtual assistants? Is it because I, have some hack and I really understand what I'm looking for in an employee? Or, is it that, people just want to work harder for me? Or am I, what's the biggest difference? And the reality is, like, no, I'm willing to take on virtual assistants that have way less experience than some of the people that use our virtual assistants in our company, Vominos. I'm willing to take anybody because I'm very confident in these 6 steps. If I follow these 6 steps and I bring someone on, I know they're going to do a good job, and they'll probably outperform many other teams by even having less skills, because I understand very clearly, first and foremost, what I'm trying to get help with. I've had problems in the past of hiring people, paying salaries just because I was like, oh, this would be great to have. Guys, I had HR, I had multiple sales team members, I had an operations manager. At one point in time in 2023, I had like 21 employees. That 21 employees is now down to 5 because I understand exactly what I need in my business. And the funny thing is, we are making more money right now in my business with 5 people than what we did with 21. That's crazy. Is because I did not follow. It's like, how many times I need to learn this lesson? I didn't follow these steps. I hired people that I didn't really need to do, to where I really just distilled it down to, this is how to actually hire someone. And this is when you know it's time to hire someone. So we're going to be going through that today, not just a 6-step process, but if you wonder, like, how soon should I get help? We'll talk about that too. And to be honest with you guys, when it's time to get help is pretty blatantly obvious. You've been doing the work and you're stuck in growth, but we'll talk about it. Okay. So first thing is first. When it comes to the 6-step process, there is an acronym I want you to remember. It's called DORAGI. Sounds weird. It's not even a real word. It's called DORAGI. However you want to remember this, D in DORAGI is the first step in the 6-step process. D stands for demonstrate. Now, this acronym, this framework comes from Cameron Herold. He's a very popular author. He has like a bunch of different courses on leadership, and we used some of his stuff back whenever we were scaling a company called Start Virtual with over 600 employees. We bought his leadership and people management thing for all of our team leaders inside of that company. And one of the things that he taught inside of there was like how to actually give off tasks. So this isn't even my framework. This is his. And I started using it. I'm like, holy crap, this works. So I want to make sure that I shared it with you guys here today. So D stands for demonstrate. Now, demonstrate is anything from like, if for example, if I need my cold caller to make phone calls, what could I do to potentially demonstrate the job being done? I can demonstrate by giving them call recordings. I could do role play sessions. I can teach basic knowledge, basic things they're going to need for on the job. I can teach how to use my system, right? So my CRM, how to use deal generator, like how to properly manage leads as they come in, how to tag them. What's the process? Like, how do you know when you get a good lead? Like I have to properly demonstrate all these things so they understand how to effectively do the job. So I demonstrate it, right? I give them call recordings. We do role play sessions. I teach the basic stuff. I teach how to use my system. I do all these things in the demonstration phase. So the first letter here is demonstrates. It's the first thing that I do. And look, guys, this framework can be used for anything. You can do this in your personal life. You can do this in your business, like whatever. This can be used. And I specifically like to use it in business because like anytime that I have a new task or a new job that I need help on, I identify that job based on the stuff isn't getting done consistently and it's very important it gets done and I need help. Okay, well, what should I be looking for in my next hire? What should I be giving them? And it all comes down to all the things, putting a package together of all the things that need to get done and demonstrating it properly. Like, hey, the person I bring in for this role needs to be able to do these things and I need to be able to demonstrate those things. So the great thing about like for many of you guys that get like virtual assistants in this model, well, D and demonstrate has already been done for the most part, right? We teach them the basics. We teach them and we do role play sessions and we teach the basic knowledge and we give them call recordings to review and we teach them how to use the system. So we've demonstrated how to do the job. That is very important. And by the time a lot of clients get a virtual assistants, and this is the reason why like, hey, if you're hiring on your own, then you're going to have to create these systems for yourself. But if you're already hiring someone who's done a lot of these things for you, it just saves you a little bit of time. Now, after we've demonstrated, this is the next very, very, very important step, right? So let's just go ahead and do this. I'm going to come here and let's do, so this is step 1 is to de-demonstrate. Okay. Now, next in this process is O. So step 2 is O, and O stands for observe. So observe. We need to see them do the job. And this is the difference right here between delegation and abdication. So you can easily say, hey, here's call recordings. I'm gonna role play with you a couple times. I'm gonna teach you the basics. I'm gonna teach you how to use the system. Boom, go do the job, right? And then you wonder why I'm not getting the results I want to get. I'm not tracking the numbers. I'm just basically throwing stuff against the wall and I'm hoping for the best, but they're not doing the job. So it's their problem. I demonstrated how to do it, but they're not doing it properly. So I'm going to go ahead and fire them and go hire someone else. I'm going to go demonstrate it and hopefully they can do the job better. And that is the quickest way to always be stuck and never be able to delegate things is you're constantly demonstrating to new people and you're not moving down this ladder here. So the next thing is we need to observe, right? I need to watch the person do the things I demonstrated. So in the challenge I did in November where I handed off some tasks to virtual assistants to cold call, I had to like watch them mess up the script. I had to watch them go through it. I'm like, are they actually going to get this? I'm not confident this person's going to be a long-term solution. We'll see, but I had to watch the person do the things that I demonstrated, right? So they had to role play back with me. They had to tell me the things that they've learned. They had to bring new challenges. So the only way that I can watch them is they need to go take basically a trial run. So how I like to do this is I like to do like a trial of anywhere from 2 to 5 days. Trial, right? I don't have enough data after 1 day, but anywhere from 2 to 5 days of actually doing the job that I'm trying to get them to actually do. And again, this is where most people mess up. They give them the job, they go and look after a week, wonder why they're not getting the results, and then they go find somebody else to demonstrate. They give them a week and it doesn't work out and it's just the same thing. Or you keep people around too long. Some of you guys, it's not even the person doing the job, is that you're afraid to fire them. You keep them around too long. They've been working for you for weeks and weeks and weeks and you're not getting results and you're wondering why that's the case. And you're like, well, I'm finally burnt out and done. I guess the virtual assistant thing doesn't work, or I guess getting help in my business, my family member, my friends, they don't know how to do this. So I guess this just isn't going to work. You're going to find somebody else. So you'll stay on this vicious cycle, right? But we want to be able to observe them doing the job. So first and foremost, we're clear on exactly what we want them to do. We demonstrate to them the thing that we want them to do, and then we observe them doing it. We give them about a 2 to 5 day trial period. If you like this video, then you are going to love our school community. School.com/no fluff real estate. You're going to find the recordings from our live trainings. You're going to have opportunities to join in on the live trainings themselves, and literally everything you can imagine to get support on, from negotiations, underwriting, all the different topics that we don't even post on the YouTube channel or inside of the school community. But the best part is the community. Be surrounded by other investors that are doing exactly what you're doing, learning this information, but more importantly, taking massive action on it. Let's get back to the training. And I'm gonna give you guys some food for thought here, by the time we finish up. But I want you guys to start thinking right now in this training, what are some things that you are doing right now? And this would be helpful if maybe if you put this on a spreadsheet, and I will attach this inside a masterclass pass. I'll put a little activity inventory in there. But maybe for a good practice for the next week or so, before you start handing things off, a good practice would be take activity inventory. What are things that you're currently doing? Right? It's almost like when a trainer or a dietitian asks you to track your food. They say, if anything goes in your mouth and you eat it, then you need to put it down and you need to track it. Same thing. If you are doing any task in your business or personal life that is taking you longer than, I would say, 60 seconds, put that down as an activity. So I'll give you guys a little spreadsheet to work off of. But in the meantime, you can just take a spreadsheet and say, have a little column that says activity. You can have a little column that says how long it took you to do it. And then you're going to have a third column and you're going to say, is this something that I can either automate, delegate, or delete? A, D, D. Automate, delegate, or delete. Right? If it's none of those things, then it's like, okay, well, if I can't automate it, I can't delegate it, and I can't delete it, then it's something that you're going to have to do and find a way to eventually delegate it or automate it or delete it. So again, a good thing to start thinking about right now is activity inventory. What are you doing? And I think sometimes by putting it down on paper, and look, I could say this right now, and I know there's probably going to be a small percentage of you guys who actually do this, but it works really well. So taking an activity inventory of the things that you're doing on a daily basis, that means if in the middle of the day you're scrolling Instagram or YouTube for 5 or 10 minutes when you should be working, put that down, right? It's nice to see how much time you're actually spending on this stuff. But it does take a very disciplined individual to get good at this. So if discipline has been something you have struggled with, this is a first step in that direction to really start honing in and getting better. So think about the $1 million version of you, or the person who's making millions of dollars a year, if that's your goal, or the person who has the time freedom that they want to have and has the life freedom to go do the things they want to do when they want to do it, and work on the projects they want to work on when they want to work on them. Well, what kind of sacrifices does that person have to make? They probably had to be pretty disciplined in certain areas of their life, right? So something to start thinking about right this moment as you're watching this, okay? So step 2 is observe. Step 3, this is the biggest piece, in my opinion, of the whole framework, right? So what happens here? We showed them how to do it and we observed them doing it over a 2 to 5 day period. And then step 3, this happens every time. It is not uncommon for this to not happen, is R, right? So if the acronym is DORAGI, R stands for re-demonstrate, okay? Let me do this. I put R here, so that way it's not too confusing. R stands for re-demonstrate. This is normal. You're going to have to re-demonstrate yourself doing it. There's a saying that says you have to tell someone on average 7 times before they hear it once. Some of you guys, I have to tell y'all 20 times before you hear it once, but that's just the reality of it, right? We have to re-demonstrate things. So this is where I've watched them do it, and then I can give them feedback, right? Feedback on actions and observations. And this is the reason why most people fail, is because they're not doing this step. They're not going back and re-demonstrating to the person on what they need to do or how to actually get the job done the way it was supposed to get done, because they're going to watch you do it and they will 100% not do it the right way. So you have to re-demonstrate. Okay. You got to give them feedback on their actions and observations. And then you have to role play more. If this is with a virtual assistant, right? I have to then go teach more jargon if I need to, right? So anything specific around the job, they don't understand the words or something like that. What does it even mean, right? And then I may have to spot check the CRM to make sure that they're doing the tasks properly and they're tagging leads properly, spot check CRM. And I have to do these things, right? And then after I re-demonstrate, I'm going to have to, after I re-demonstrate, so I did the Duragi step. I've demonstrated, showed them what I want to do. I then observed them, right? And then step 3, I re-demonstrate the things that I want them to fix. I re-demonstrate the things that I want them to fix. And then what typically happens after I have to re-demonstrate, there's a short period of time here where you may have to go back and forth a little bit. You may have to observe them doing it for a day or two and then re-demonstrate. You may have to observe them doing it for a day or two and re-demonstrate. What the main thing you don't want to get stuck with doing here is you're continually giving the same feedback every day and they're not getting any better. You hope that if they follow this properly, that whoever you're giving this to, family member, friend, whatever, that they are not asking the same questions. They're not incurring the same problems over and over again. Hopefully, by the time you have to re-demonstrate, it's a new problem that you're like, "Ooh, I didn't even think about that." Right? And the cool thing about you doing this, especially for the first couple times in your business, for future hires, it's going to make your onboarding process so much easier. Right? So like by the time you hire your second virtual assistant, third virtual assistant, new team member to help you with acquisitions, whatever, you're going to have so much already documented that it's going to be super helpful for that person and it makes your system a little bit more efficient every single time. Right? Think about like Amazon's second hire ever versus like their 2000th hire and their 20,000th hire. It's probably a lot more efficient of a process because they follow the same framework. So re-demonstrate. We have to go back and show them. And again, most people, if you're abdicating responsibility, man, you're not getting anywhere. You're just going through, you're demonstrating, you're observing, and then that's where it stops. All right. So step 3, you're re-demonstrating. And I will do that as many times as I need to feel like, all right, they understand the task now. Now that they understand the task, I'll move on to step number 4. And step number 4 is A, right? In the framework of Doragi, step 4 is A. And A stands for assign. So after I've seen them do the task, I feel confident that they understand the job at hand. They're not doing it perfectly, but I feel confident they can actually do the job that I'm asking them to do. Then at this point, I will assign the goals, right? So sometimes as I'm going through the demonstration process and observing, I might find somebody this isn't just, they're not fit for the job. Gary Vee says this, hiring is guessing and firing is knowing. I'm hoping for the best when I hire somebody. You can interview great, answer all the right questions, but I put you on the job and you don't perform, great. I understand at that point that maybe I made the wrong decision with the hire, but you want to cut it off as soon as you can so you don't continue to pay for the problem down the road, right? So I may actually have to fire someone or release them during the DOR step of this process. All right. Or maybe it's a family member or friend where you say, maybe this isn't a good fit, and however you want to handle that conversation. But normally I fall on the sword and be like, it's not ready. I don't have the systems and stuff to support you. And I really appreciate you wanting to help, but I just don't think this is a good fit. Like whatever you need to say. But if they make it through that and you feel confident they can do the job, then step 4 is you assign, right? So this is where I give them a detailed breakdown of the job and expectations, right? So this is like, hey, now this is going to be your job. And you understand how to talk to people. You understand how to make these phone calls and say the script. You understand how to text people and use the systems. You've been using the CRM properly. You understand some of the jargon now. Great. Well, this is your job for 8 hours a day moving forward. I feel confident enough you can do this, right? So I'm going to assign this job to you. I'm going to assign this task to you. It doesn't have to be an entire job, guys. Sometimes it's like, hey, I need somebody to go get the mail for me and sort my mail. If that was a job, that's not something that I have delegated. But if that is someone's job, then it's like, okay, well, I would probably want to demonstrate. I'm like, hey, this is what I do with my mail. For all my bills, they go here. For the promotions, they go over here. For all things coming in as far as like online purchases, they go over here, et cetera, right? And you would show them exactly what like you do. And then you watch them do it. You get the mail and you watch them sort it out and do the thing. And you're like, perfect. Okay. Well, remember where I said this? And here's one little thing, like this would technically be considered a bill. So I understand where you may have got that confused, whatever, right? Perfect. Let me show you one more time. So this is what I do with it. This is what I do. This is what I do. Got it. Right. And I feel confident they can do it. I will then assign them the job. Now you understand exactly what to do. This is your job now moving forward. Congratulations. Right. Step 4, we assign the job. We assign the job. Does that make sense, you guys? Everybody following me so far? This could be any job. This could be anything. This could be as simple as, again, getting someone to check your mail to closing a deal, right? When I teach someone how to close, I demonstrate myself closing. I give them call recordings. I role play on how I close, and I have them present interesting scenarios of agents that may come across my table with, I'm going to have to close them and get them to work with us and take our offer, right? I teach them the basics behind it, the basics between NLP and building a relationship and talking to people, and like my framework behind closing. I use the Sandler sales method. Guys, and if you're curious about any of this, there's actually a course inside the school community. I believe it's called the Sales and Negotiation Workshop. Go there, watch those recordings. It'll be super helpful for you. But I would have to teach them the basics, and I documented everything along the way. So from there, I would then observe them making a couple phone calls, and they're going to mess up. They're not going to do it perfectly. They may not do it the way that I would like for it to get done. Perfect. And then I re-demonstrate closing, right? I give them feedback on my observations. I then role play again. I teach more jargon, do whatever I need to do, spot check the CRM before I feel confident enough to have someone in my CRM making phone calls and helping me close deals. When I just threw this job at people, it takes a very special person to just be able to figure it out and wing it. I have somebody on my team, Cynthia. She's very much a person that she can wing it and do very, very, very well. But for the most part, when you hire people, you can't bank on that being the case. You want to make sure that you do this properly. And any task, anything right now, guys, again, as you take note and we do this activity inventory, start thinking about some things that you could pass off to a few folks. Maybe it's a business partner. Maybe that's a strategic partner. Maybe that's a virtual assistant that you're paying $4 an hour. I always say, is your time worth more than $4 an hour? If you can't afford to hire someone for $4 an hour, then no, it has to be done. So you must do a task that you could pay someone else $4 an hour to do if you can't afford to pay someone to do it. But as soon as you can afford to pay someone to do a $4 an hour task, you dang skippy, that is one of the easiest wins you could have, is pay someone $4 an hour because your time is worth more than $4 an hour. You could do the math backwards and figure out how much money you're making per month and figure out how much you're worth hourly. So nonetheless, step 4, assign the task. All right. Step 4 is assign. Now let's move on to step 5. After we have assigned the task and we give it to them and give them a detailed explanation of this, right? So sometimes, if you guys want, I can give you a job description that I've given to employees, and maybe that'll help you understand the assignment portion of this. But basically it says, hey, on a daily basis, this is what you can expect to do and expect to have to do as a part of this job. Here is your job description, right? So let me put it. I would then give job description. And you could probably also Google like job description examples if you wanted a template or something like that. But I have a couple I'm happy to share inside a Masterclass Pass. Now, Step 5 in this process. Okay, guys, we're talking about making millions of dollars a year. So this may be something that may be a little daunting, or you're like, hey, I don't know how this relates to me quite yet, or hey, I don't have employees, I don't plan on it. Guys, it's not just about that. It's like, if you want to get more done in general, being able to give things to people to get help with anything this is an important framework. Like if I want somebody to come cut the grass, like I want to make sure that I give them, and I do it a very specific way. I want to make sure that I'm not set up for failure and my expectations not to be met. I'll follow the same thing. Here's how I normally cut my grass. Let me see you do something. Okay, yeah, perfect. Exactly that. Just these are the things that I would change. Thank you so much, right? I assign them the job of cutting the grass. Literally, it could go to anything. So step 5, after I assign the task, I then move on to G, okay? In G in this framework is where you do goal setting. This is where I set KPIs, right? So this is where I come up with the 150 calls, 200 texts. And this is important, right? These aren't arbitrary numbers. And when you have someone come help, you want to give them real goals, because it's important as they go about their day and they go about their work. It's nice to know that they feel like they're also doing a good job. Like, hey, my job is to check these boxes, right? I need to make 150 calls. I need to sit in 200 texts. That is my job for today. That is my goal. Every single day, I'm trying to hit that goal. And guess what? There's plenty of days where they don't hit it. But if that's the North Star, if that's their goal, it's important they understand what that is out the gate. So again, guys, it's impossible to set goals around something if we were never clear on the task we wanted to delegate in the first place. So again, we must be very clear before we can go through demonstrating, observing, re-demonstrating, assigning, and then finally setting goals around the thing that we're asking them to do, right? I gave them their job description. Here's what the task is going to look like on a daily basis. Be proficient using the tools, being able to make phone calls, blah, blah, blah. Then I set goals. This is what a good day looks like. Set my KPIs, do my 150 calls, 200 texts. You are, 100% on time. You show up to 95% of our meetings, like whatever, right? I set goals around a specific, job, around a specific task, when I would like for it to get done, right? So goals are, by the way, guys, goals are measurable, okay? With numbers. If you don't give numbers, then it's not measurable, right? So there's a book called Measure What Matters. It talks about objectives and key results, OKRs. Any goal that we set needs to have numbers to back it up, because otherwise it's just impossible. It'll never get done correctly, because if stuff is left up to trying to figure it out, so much gets lost in translation, right? You said you wanted me to make as many calls as I can. Okay, well, what's that number? Some days the many calls I could make was 40 and some days it was 100, right? There's no standard. standard. So when you set goals, there has to be some sort of standard you set, and your goals must be measurable with numbers. Everything has to be measured. What you'll also find though, in the process of measuring things, you guys, in the process of measuring your goals and measuring around objectives, key results, KPIs, which is key performance indicators, measuring these things, you'll also find opportunities for small wins. We work in a business where many days we don't get contracts. If you're solo dolo, you're doing this on your own, or you're getting help and someone's helping you call and someone's helping you text, there's going to be many days where you don't get a contract. So how do you still find the silver lining where the key objective, which is how you make money and getting deals done, wasn't accomplished? You didn't get a deal today. Well, what was the silver lining there? Well, I have all these other measurables. I see how many calls it takes for me to have a conversation. I see how many conversations it takes for me to get addresses. I see how many addresses it takes for me to get contracts. I see how many contracts it takes for me to get closed money, right? And for many of you guys, your numbers, the only thing you can track right now is the front end numbers. You haven't seen anything close yet. That's okay. Stay confident in that. If you hit these numbers, you will get contracts. And even if you didn't close a contract, you know, the more contracts you have in your pipeline, the more likely you are to make money, right? So if you're not making the money you want to make, you're not closing the kind of deals you want to close in real estate specifically, then there's always just more. More activity at the top will lead to more conversations, more properties, which will lead to more contracts. And that's one thing you can make dang sure of. Don't let anyone else dictate this for you. This should be something that you are consistently tracking. Okay. Carlos says, what KPIs would you track for lead managers / closers? So I would say KPIs for those guys is the time to lead. So how long does a lead sit before we call them, right? So if it's a tier 1 and we make that second touch, well, how long did it take for us to call them on average? That's a nitty gritty number. So maybe for many of you guys who are just getting started, that's not something that you'll have readily available. But the next thing that I look at is how many conversations did you have with agents that got pushed to underwriting, right? Because they're going to weed through the conversations that go to underwriting, right? Based on their qualification, how many of these leads actually make sense to proceed with from underwriting? And then how many leads that went through underwriting do you actually get under contract, right? So how many leads to go from underwriting to contract? So if we have a lot of leads get qualified and a lot of leads go to underwriting, but not a lot of leads get contracted, okay, was there a lead qualification problem or is there a training problem on how to convert on these? What's our positioning like on that second call? What's actually happening there? But these are easy problems to disseminate based on the numbers, right? So those are the numbers that I would definitely track. How many conversations to underwriting and how many properties in underwriting to contracts? That would be the ones that I would check for them, okay? What's our conversion rate? After we've underwrote the deal, what's our conversion rate is the thing that we're looking for, okay? So after you've done those things, there's measurables at each step in the pipeline. It's like, okay, well, how many contracts to close? What percentage of our contracts actually close on time versus needing extensions and stuff like that. So there's little places to find wins and there's little places to make it better. The thing that takes you from good to great, right? There's a book, The Big Leap. Like a lot of times, like we have our own limiting beliefs, right? Has anyone ever felt like, you've had a lot of good things happen and you're like, oh my gosh, so many good things are happening for me. Something bad's about to happen, right? It can't be this good. And then lo and behold, you almost manifested something bad happening in your life because then something does happen. You're like, boom, I knew it. I knew it was coming. Seen it time and time again, right? Sometimes people have the same thing with money. Every time I make money, like for some reason, I spend money on things that maybe I shouldn't spend on. Or maybe every time I get money, there's an unexpected bill that comes up and it just wipes me out every time. Every time I think I'm getting ahead, I take 2 steps back. Has anyone ever felt like that, right? It's almost like we manifest these things in our life because then lo and behold, look at it, boom, there it is. There's the bill that came that you knew was probably going to come and just wiped you out all the good progress that you had, right? So sometimes it's removing some of these limiting beliefs we have in our own mind, and what's keeping us from growth is oftentimes ourselves, right? And we start thinking like, hey, good things are supposed to happen to me. I'm supposed to have a lot of money in my bank account. I should actually have more, right? And the funny thing is you start getting those things. You start achieving those things. So again, it's measuring the things that matter, but at the same time, it's setting yourself up and priming yourself for success by believing you deserve it and you should have it. And that's a big one, right? That's something no one else can give to you. That's something no one else can make you say, hey, look, you should have these things, right? I just hope that you guys can see that I'm a normal person. Everybody else here in this group are normal people. And if we can achieve results and we can make good money, you 100% can as well. So that goes into goal setting whenever we give off these tasks. So oftentimes, again, we've given the task off for lead generation. Next thing we normally do again is what Carlos is saying is like KPIs for managers and closers, being able to properly delegate these tasks for closing. It's a big task to delegate, but I'm looking at time to lead. I'm looking at leads to underwriting. I'm looking at underwriting to close deals. What's our conversion mechanisms in there? Because I can clearly find ways to make the system better. Like the funny thing is, like if everything is the same, the system that has the quicker time to lead at the top of the funnel, right there when the lead gets passed off, the system that has a quicker time converts on deals well over 200% more than someone who takes a little bit longer. And that threshold for us ends up being somewhere in the neighborhood of about 18 to 24 hours, right? If we're consistently calling leads that came from a cold call or a text message the next day, we have a massive drop off versus someone who just picks up the phone and calls them. That is an easy win. I'm talking over double the amount of deals, and someone who just that little piece right there, that little piece of calling leads quickly can cost you or help you be double as good as your competition. So something to keep in mind, right? So that is something, again, as you go to Delegate, we set goals accordingly, right? Now, after everything is said and done, right, we want to do check-ins, right? We want to be able to look back and look at the results that we've gotten. And we went through, we assigned the job to them, we set goals. How often should you check in with the team members or the people that are taking on these tasks in your business? How often should you meet with them? In my opinion, there's the saying from Jeff Bezos. He goes, if 2 pizzas can't feed your team, then your team is too big, right? So when we look at as your business gets bigger and bigger, there at any point in time, there shouldn't be any more than like 6 to 8 people that report to you, right? As your business gets, if that's the kind of business you want to build. Some of you guys don't want to do that. But if that is the goal, like we got to remember that businesses are basically teams of teams of teams, right? So we have to be, instead of like being the king of our business, we have to be the king maker, right? We have to be the person that is building up leaders within our organization so they can take on more tasks, right? The cool thing about us doing this challenge right now is my job is to make our leaders freaking kings of the community. My job is to make everybody in our world that, that I'm saying, hey, these are your team leaders. I don't want to be like, I can't be that for every person, but we can create an amazing community if we have leaders within leaders within leaders within leaders, and we have people taking on big time responsibilities and doing great things. That is how you build up anything. So, like all this is done to say, like, this is how you build any business, anything that's worthwhile, in my opinion, is you got to be able to give responsibility, but more importantly, you got to be able to check in with them on a consistent basis. So what I like to do for my virtual assistants is I like to go back every month and do a check-in on numbers saying, hey, this is what happened last month. It's almost like a performance assessment. This would be like a one-on-one. So if you have a direct report, maybe you have an acquisition rep, maybe you have a disposition rep, and maybe you have a team of virtual assistants and you have one person representing that virtual assistant, or maybe you just have one VA, whatever. It makes sense to meet with them monthly to do a one-on-one to inspect the results, to see, hey, I gave you these things. How are we doing on those? Now, in the beginning, as the goal has been freshly given, you will need to inspect more often. You may want to check in weekly on the new task and then get to a monthly cadence. But again, we are not in the mode of micromanaging, right? We're not in the mode of just like staying on and making sure like, hey, just checking in. Did you do it? Did you do it? Did you do it? Did you do it? We don't want to do that. We want to give people the freedom and feel like you can grow within this company and know that I'm not going to have my thumb on you at all times. I believe that you can do this. And I do this because I give you the confidence. I'm not always going to check in to make sure you're doing it. You're on your own. I want you to get this done, and I trust that you're going to get it done. So the last step in this, step 6, is I, and I stands for inspect. Okay. So as a task is a newly assigned task, you should check in weekly. Okay. And then after you checked in weekly, I would probably say for, anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. So maybe it's a weekly check-in 2 or 3 times. Then you move to a monthly check-in / one-on-one for performance. Okay. So again, this could be anything from an admin related task. Maybe you have a family member helping you with your bookkeeping. Maybe you have a friend helping you with going out and door knocking. Like, I don't know, like anything, guys. It's a newly assigned task. I'm going to check in with them more often just to make sure they got it. And they also feel supported. But after that, like, we really don't have to talk that much. I can either talk bi-weekly or every month. And I recommend monthly because, we probably have other opportunities to meet. And I'm talking about monthly specifically around how the job is going. Now, if you have a team, you meet with your team every day, right? 15 minutes every morning, stand up meeting. Hey, what kind of leads do we have? Okay, what's our warmest leads? What's our fastest path to cash? Where's the easiest money today? Oh, it's these 2 leads right here. Let's get some movement on these 2 leads, right? Like you should be doing a morning, or at least maybe it's not in the morning, maybe it's whenever you have to do your meeting. I recommend mornings to do a daily stand up. Doesn't have to be 30 minutes, 45 minutes, but I do recommend getting face to face with your team on a daily basis or as often as you possibly can for at least 15 minutes, most 15 minutes. I said at least. I don't want you guys to think you got to meet with your team 45 minutes. You don't need to. You need to get in and get out. Sometimes we get caught in meetings. Maybe you guys have done this before, but sometimes we get caught in meetings that should have lasted 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but we've been in there 30 minutes, 45 minutes just shooting the shit, just talking. It's like, we're not getting anything done. Like, meetings are very costly. If your one sales rep brings you in $10,000 a month and you have a virtual assistant, you pay $4 an hour. Well, that means that acquisition rep is worth about $2,500 a week. That means they're worth about $500 a day. And if you just took an hour out of their day, that was probably like almost $100 of money they could be making the company, plus the $4 an hour you're paying a virtual assistant. And you can see if you get multiple team members on one of this meeting, it can literally cost a business thousands of dollars to have a 30-minute meeting based on the people who are getting paid within that meeting and what they're getting paid. It doesn't have to be hourly. It could also be by performance. So just really important you take that in consideration when you're doing these meetings. So nonetheless, when it comes to delegating tasks, you guys, and putting these things together, first and foremost, we have to clearly understand the task or the problem or the job we're trying to solve. And then we demonstrate the job being done to the nth degree. Obviously, you can have a lot of call recordings and stuff like that, but really this takes someone physically showing them. If you want to get the best results, physically show them. Don't say, hey, go watch this video. It's like 5 minutes, go watch it. I have those resources, but like I have someone on my team that can take someone through this whole entire process. It doesn't require me to do it. But in the beginning, this was one of the best uses of my time because the time that I got back after doing this properly was so much more worth it than having to continually go through this process here of redemonstrating, hiring, redemonstrate, hiring, redemonstrate. So it made so much sense for me to spend a day with somebody, showing them everything and observing, and then spending another day with somebody, redemonstrating until I got to the point where it's like, okay, they can do this. I can assign the task and set goals and I can go and inspect. That is the best thing you can do for your business. And that is one of the highest and best uses for your time, I promise. So guys, you can delegate anything in your business. You can delegate anything at any point in time if you just follow this 6-step process. I highly recommend try to figure out, again, if there are any activities that you're currently advocating in your business, this is how you properly delegate them by following the 6-step process. Now, something I'm going to give you guys in Masterclass Pass and probably back on the recording when I can, it is a spreadsheet, and this is called your activity inventory. So after you watch this video, I'm going to give you guys a task right now, right? So what I just did was I demonstrated how to actually go about delegating a task, right? Now, if I want to make sure that you guys do this properly, I need to observe you doing that. So what did I tell you guys I wanted you to do? I wanted you to do an activity inventory for homework, right? So you guys see me on my trainings, I assign homework to do these things. To like say, hey, I want you to learn how to underwrite. Perfect. I give you the homework, I ask you to do it, and then everybody's numbers are in crazy places, and I go and I have to redemonstrate me underwriting a property, and then I can assign the task. I may have to go back and forth until someone actually understands it, right? So right here on this video, your homework is for the next 3 days. I'm not even asking for a lot, right? So it's already Wednesday, but by the time Saturday rolls around, it'd be really cool to see what you do on Saturday. So for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I want you to do for the next 3 days, or if you're watching this back on recording, whatever day you're in is fine. If you're watching this on a Saturday and you're like, hey, well, tomorrow's Sunday or today's Friday, then I have Saturday, Sunday, Monday. For the next 3 days, whenever you're watching this, for the next 3 days, take note of any task that takes longer than 60 seconds to do. Okay. And that could be anything. That could be anything. You might find, hey, just checking the mail takes you longer than 60 seconds. Doing your laundry takes you longer than 60 seconds. Going and getting a coffee every single morning takes you 20 minutes or whatever out of your time you could be. We're talking about trying to be a little bit more efficient, guys. And this is not to take time away. This is, if you're disciplined in the little, then you can go enjoy and be completely off. Like I see people that are like on their laptops on vacation and working on vacation, guys. When you're on, you need to be on. And when you're off, you need to be completely off, right? That's the life I want you to live. Like for people who aren't properly delegating things and are not disciplined with their time, those are the ones that are taking their laptop on vacation and working on a beach. That just tells me that's an undisciplined business person, as an undisciplined entrepreneur, because they haven't properly delegated things. Here they are working on vacation because they haven't delegated things properly. So I want you guys to not have to deal with that. So for the next 3 days, I want you to take note of any task that takes longer than 60 seconds to do. Okay. And from those tasks, I want you to jot them down on a spreadsheet. Okay. So you can go make a Google sheet. I'll make a template for you guys, but this is what I want the spreadsheet to say, right? One column that has the name of the activity. Okay. One column that has the time it took you to do it. And then one column that you will then put either automate, delegate, or maybe I do A, and the other one is delete. So anything that you can either automate, delegate, or delete is what you should put. So it's just 3 columns on a spreadsheet, and it's almost like logging your food. This is the habits in your business that is very important you take note of. 3 columns. What's the activity you did that took you longer than 60 seconds? Right? And this is going to be very hard. I'll be honest with you guys. This is going to be very hard. Only a very disciplined person is going to make it through 3 days of doing this. I'm going to go ahead and put that task out there. Most of you guys will not be able to do that. But if you do it and you are disciplined, this is going to help you out tremendously. You think you're busy and you fill out one of these, you're like, holy crap, I'm wasting so much time over here doing this, Y, and Z. I don't care about your screen time on your phone. I'm talking about tasks. What is happening? What are you spending more than 60 seconds on? If you take this very serious, guys, you can make a big impact. So my first job for observing you properly delegating any task is to start with figuring out what task you need to delegate. And the way that I am going to do that with you guys is for you guys to fill out an activity inventory. And for you guys that I'm working with one-on-one, like Carlos and some of you guys watching this back, I'm going to ask you guys, did you do your activity inventory? What are all the things that you're looking at that you could potentially delegate? Because there's a lot of things you could automate within the system. There's a lot of things you could probably delete saying, hey, this isn't that important. I spend time doing this. Or maybe I can give somebody else this job in the household or in my life. I can give somebody else this job. I can delete this off my calendar and list of things to do. What are the things that I could properly? That is what I'm going to ask you guys. But it all starts by figuring out what the heck we can delegate first. And I want you guys to fill out this activity inventory. That is my homework to you guys. I will make a spreadsheet for you and I'll share it with you in Masterclass Pass. I really hope you guys enjoyed this training today on how to delegate anything in your business and your life. And hopefully you start implementing this stuff as soon as you can. Like I said, it's going to be very tough. It's going to take a very disciplined individual to do this homework, but I believe you can do it. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Hop into the school group and share something that you learned today and share your commitment you're making to yourself on this activity inventory. This is the little things that help you grow. Sometimes it's not even picking up the phone and making phone calls and talking to agents to do deals. It's the little things that's holding us back. We're spending too much time on things that ain't making us money. So hopefully this helps you guys. I really appreciate you watching this masterclass. This recording will be available in Masterclass Pass in the next 24 hours. Thank y'all so much. Bye.